Well, welcome to the 700 Club. Secretary of State Marco Rubio arrives in Israel today, and it'll just be hours after Vice President J.D. Vance departs. Rubio is the latest in a steady stream of U.S. officials meeting with Israeli leaders to keep President Trump's peace deal on track.
In his talks with the Vice President, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu drew some red lines, particularly on Turkey's movement. CBN's Julie Stahl has more.
Israeli police escorted Vice President J.D. Vance and his wife Usha to the Old City for a tour of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the site where many believe Jesus was crucified. Israeli government spokesperson Shosh Bedrosian said Vance's visit and meetings with Israeli leaders made a strong impression.
Prime Minister Netanyahu said he was impressed with the vice president's clarity, sharpness, solidarity for our common cause, and sincere friendship that he saw in conference and private meetings that took place today.
One sticking point is allowing any troops from Turkey to take part in a peacekeeping force in Gaza. Turkey's President Erdogan strongly supports the Muslim Brotherhood, the same group that spawned Hamas. When asked about Turkey's involvement, Netanyahu said,
"So I have very strong opinions about that. You want to guess what they are?"
Vance gave Netanyahu room to disagree.
We don't want in Israel, we don't want a vassal state, and that's not what Israel is. We don't want a client state, and that's not what Israel is. We want a partnership. We want an ally here.
U.S.-Israel analyst Eli Piepsh told CBN News that Israel will take action if its national security is threatened in Gaza by Qatar or Turkey.
This is going to be the opportunity where if Qatar and Turkey are going to be acting and are going to be trying to rehabilitate, are going to protect Hamas instead of disarming Hamas, Israel is going to be very, very quick to act. If Israel acted in Doha a few weeks ago, Israel can act in Gaza, even if there are Qatari or Turkish elements.
Piepsh says Turkey and Qatar value their relations with the U.S. over their relations with Hamas.
And that, I think, is a fundamental feature of this agreement. And if there's going to be friction between those countries and Israel, it will also mean there'll be friction between those countries and the U.S., and I don't think Turkey and Qatar want to have friction with the U.S.
Shortly after Vance leaves Israel, Secretary of State Marco Rubio arrives. Rubio is scheduled to meet with Netanyahu on Friday. Wednesday, Israel's parliament advanced a bill extending Israeli sovereignty over its communities in biblical Judea and Samaria, also known as the West Bank. While the vote appeared to be a political maneuver aimed at the Netanyahu government, Rubio said such a move could endanger the peace process.
That's a vote in the Knesset, but obviously I think the president's made clear that's not something we'd be supportive of right now, and we think is even threatening to the peace deal.
Meanwhile, the funeral of returned hostage Tal Haimi took place in his home of Kibbutz Nir Yitzhak, which he died defending on October 7th. And Thai hostage Sonthaya Okarasri was honored prior to sending his body home for burial. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Well, the joke currently circulating is the United States is providing babysitters to Israel, that this cycle of presidents and secretary of states is all trying to keep Israel from recognizing what is clearly going on the ground in Gaza, and that is Hamas is violating the terms of the ceasefire. They're trying to keep the peace deal on track, and they're trying to keep Israel from reinvading Gaza, and that's the whole game here. What is fascinating to me is that they're not putting the pressure they need to put on Qatar and Turkey. Hamas is a creation of those two countries, and that's how Hamas even got to the deal in the first place to release the hostages. Any peace agreement that then has Turkish or Qatari supervision in Gaza means the rise of Hamas. They are all part of the Muslim Brotherhood. They're deeply influenced by that ideology, and that ideology calls for the elimination of the Jewish state. So just imagine if Turkey had its army in Gaza supposedly to enforce the peace. That group, because of brotherhood with the Muslim Brotherhood, allows them to have rockets and other means of attack at the Gaza envelope on Israel's southern border. At that point in time, any kind of retaliation by Israel risked a huge war, a war not just in Gaza, but a war with Turkey. Turkey, as a member of NATO, would then trigger some defense obligations by Europe and the United States. This could get horrible. This is not any kind of pathway to peace. It's a pathway for a conflagration that we can't understand. I don't get our foreign service right now. I don't get the State Department, the whole analysis going into this. We need to follow what Saudi Arabia and the UAE have clearly said. If Hamas stays with their weapons, we're out of here. If Qatar and Turkey are part of this, we're out of here, because they understand the underlying ideology. This is Muslim Brotherhood. They don't want peace. They want the elimination of Israel. In other news, President Trump's renovation of the White House, it's creating some controversy. John Jessup has more on that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
That is right, Gordon. The president earlier this year had said construction of a new ballroom would not affect the historic building. Construction began this week with the pulling down of parts of the East Wing. It reportedly will be totally demolished by the weekend. The action is raising complaints from former White House residents and some historians. The White House points out that different parts of the building have been renovated over the years, and that the 90,000 square foot, $300 million ballroom will be paid for with private funds. Some Republicans are critical of the timing. North Carolina Senator Tom Tillis saying, quote, "We're talking about a ballroom when we're trying to get the economy squared away." Well, now to the changing landscape of the abortion battle. This year, Planned Parenthood plans to close more than 40 locations. Since the abortion pill is readily available online at drugstores, some question whether the closures will even matter. CBN's Heather Sells reports.
Planned Parenthood's decision to shut down more than 40 clinics includes this mega site, a 78,000-foot building in Houston. For years, it was considered one of the largest abortion clinics in the Western Hemisphere. In Louisiana, Planned Parenthood plans to end all operations.
Still, pro-life leaders see little consolation, mainly because women no longer need a brick-and-mortar clinic to get an abortion. They can easily access pills online or at their neighborhood pharmacy.
They've now opened up this wild, wild west of abortion in America, where even if you live in a pro-life state, a state that has moved to make abortion a thing in the past, abortions are still happening in your state.
Kristen Hawkins, president of Students for Life of America, is leading a charge against pharmacies like Walgreens and CVS, demanding they stop dispensing the pills. One recent victory came when Costco announced it will not sell them. The bigger concern, however, is online.
We're concerned about those, and we're concerned about these mail-order abortion pills. I mean, we have states like West Virginia, Kentucky that have made abortion a thing in the past, where now there's billboards being widely distributed across the state, telling women in those states where they can get illegal chemical abortion pills shipped to them.
The abortion lobby used to say that abortion is a decision between a woman and her doctor. And you may have noticed that they don't use that talking point very much anymore, because what they've done, what the Biden administration essentially did, was completely remove the doctor from the picture so that you can get these pills online without an in-person doctor visit.
The Trump administration is currently investigating the abortion pill for safety concerns. Still, pro-life activists worry the FDA's recent approval of a generic pill will make the drug even more accessible. For now, pro-life states are fighting back. Texas Governor Greg Abbott recently approved a bill allowing private citizens to sue out-of-state abortion providers. They are up against shield laws in at least 8 states that prevent states that ban abortions from suing providers in states where the procedure is legal. California lawmakers are going further with a bill to remove names from prescriptions in order to protect those who prescribe and dispense the pill.
Blue states are completely disregarding state sovereignty of red states. They're disregarding the laws and the judicial processes of red states.
Louisiana is already fighting a New York abortionist who shipped pills to the state. and has sued the FDA for allowing pills to be mailed nationwide.
To ship a pill from another state is equivalent to me of shipping fentanyl or any other type drugs over here.
Pro-life leaders expect that the Supreme Court will ultimately weigh in on these disputes. For now, Hawkins, Pritchard, and others are going to college campuses, state capitals, and Congress, fighting to promote individual decisions for life and policies that encourage them. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Thank you, Heather. A campaign to bring the gospel to cities in upstate South Carolina is headed for Columbia, the state capital. Churches across the city are coming together to take part in this weekend's outreach. World Harvest evangelist Jacob Eversole spoke with CBN's Wendy Griffith about his vision for revival in the Palmetto State.
Evangelist Jacob Eversole of World Harvest Ministry is still flying high after their recent crusade in Spartanburg, South Carolina.
My wildest dreams came true, and you know, so many thought that it wasn't possible in Spartanburg, South Carolina. But what we continue to say is, when has impossible ever stopped him? I looked around at people who came from all over South Carolina and all over the country, really, and the Lord was very clear that He wanted us to believe for more.
And as they increased their faith, the team saw a mighty move of God.
Under that tent, we saw there was such a spirit of repentance and reverence, people coming forward, laying down their addictions when we didn't even ask, even released inmates that were getting baptized. And something that was very unique in Spartanburg was people were watching on live streams, and I was getting word from people that they were filling up their bathtubs in other states and getting baptized while watching the service. Which was a unique one for me.
The spirit of repentance and rebirth crossing generational lines.
Droves of teenagers coming to Christ. Honestly, it was hard to manage. And probably my favorite thing I witnessed in the Spartanburg Crusade was our own team members baptizing their children and other family members, and also many answering the call to go on mission with us across the state and across the world.
Jacob, now you're headed for Columbia, the state capital. Tell us how that's coming together and what you're expecting.
The Lord was very clear. If we can reach our capital, then we can truly impact the state. And our ministry team, our World Harvest team, has coined the phrase "from South Carolina to the ends of the earth until the whole world knows." What's happening across the state of South Carolina is a family is assembling to see that through. And what better place to go next than our capital?
Just days after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, World Harvest held an outreach at Clemson University. The tragic event changed the course of their crusades.
Leading up to that crusade, we actually had a memorial of Charlie Kirk up at one of our tables. You know, you could see and feel the hunger from the students there. The Charlie Kirk assassination truly did something with not only me, but our team, where we decided that not only are we going to hold these crusades across the 12 major cities in South Carolina, but we're going to go to every university, college, and school and preach the gospel boldly with no hesitation.
Eversole says after Columbia, they're planning crusades in Charleston and then Myrtle Beach for 2026. Wendy Griffith, CBN News.
Thank you, Wendy. CBN's Operation Blessing is hard at work helping victims of catastrophic flooding in Mexico. At least 76 people died and dozens remain missing after days of heavy rains earlier this month. The state of Veracruz on the East Coast bore the brunt of the disaster. Operation Blessing is in the city of Alamo and set up a community kitchen at a local church within days of the disaster. Teams have been preparing and distributing hot food daily, so far delivering more than 24,000 meals to those in need. Gordon.
Well, if you want to be a part of the disaster relief effort, Operation Blessing's disaster relief teams are deployed. We're still on the ground in western North Carolina, but there have been 2 earthquakes in the Philippines, and we've deployed for those, and now there's horrible flooding in Mexico. If you want to give to it, it's real simple. You pick up a phone and call us, 1-800-700-7000. Say, I want to give to the Operation Blessing Disaster Relief Fund. You can also write to us at CBN Center, Virginia Beach, Virginia, 23463, or you can text OBDR to 71777, or you can go to the website at cbn.com. There's a place on the giving page where you can designate your gift to disaster relief. When disasters strike, our motto is, we strike back with love and compassion, very tangible help for people in need. You're a part of it when you give to the Disaster Relief Fund. So call us, 1-800-700-7000.